when asked how, as a disabled person, they perceive themselves, everybody said unanimously, I just see myself as a human being. But the obvious perceptions and attitudes of the general public are something else again. People said that they were aware that people were frightened to speak to them. I was with a very prominent disabled person, wheelchair user, at this very venue just last week, and we both went to get coffee, and I was handed my cup of coffee, and then I was handed the cup of coffee of the wheelchair user I was with. It speaks to a really disturbing underlying attitude towards disabled people.
People look at me, look at my carer instead of me, and I do think that is wrong. I really hate people talking to the carer. I think that people in wheelchairs should have a voice.
Education could be needed, should be needed. Primary school age, I think this should be started. One of the colleagues here around the table has the opportunity to go into secondary school education and to talk about his experiences and what it's like for him. We feel that that should be taken to primary school, so we're developing a more positive attitude towards disability.
Somebody talked about disability awareness training. Well, disability equality training is certainly essential across the whole of society. The main difference being that disability equality training is, at its heart, provided by disabled people, so you immediately get the notion that this is a disabled person in a position of authority.
Families can be bullied for having either a disabled parent or disabled family member. There's ignorance around it.
And sometimes people, there's that pressure to identify yourself as being disabled, because you wonder if you don't accept that label, then you might not get the support that you're entitled to.
The emphasis is on your condition rather than who you are and what your capabilities are. So straight away, people don't see what it is you can do. You're actually limited by what your condition is, what your impairment is, and people find it very difficult to move on from that. So in that case, you're not seen as somebody that probably is entitled to live in an equal society. You're looked as somebody that is vulnerable, possibly needing support, and basically to overcome that, you've really got to be, as a disabled person, quite strong-willed, knowledgeable, and usually quite thick-skinned, because if you're none of those, normally, if there is an issue or a barrier that you have to deal with, it's normally seen as the individual's problem, and if it's an individual's problem, nothing really has to be done about it at that point. And then, if you are strong-willed, then you're seen more as the problem again, and that's when we then have the likes of harassment and hate crime that comes in. So straight away, we're asking disabled people that can be seen as vulnerable people, or people that have been deprived of education, to be able to stand up for themselves on their own 2 feet, to actually fight for themselves, and then they've got that barrier of having to deal with the fact that they're seen as the problem and nobody's really interested in what they have to say or what the barriers are that they face.
All the negative press we're given and putting disabled people down is causing hate crime.
The right-wing media supporting the UK government has just drip-fed the public to believe that disabled people aren't really disabled people, and disabled people are scroungers even if they are disabled people. This is fed into by the debate over abuse of the blue badge system and a number of other things.
I have been a victim of a hate crime. A guy asked me and several of my carers for money, and I have reported it to 101, but yet again nothing gets done about it.
Disabled people themselves, they want to work, they want business, they want jobs, they want a proper wage, and they want equal treatment, proper treatment as disabled people. It's important that they treat disabled people as they would do anybody else. Treat them properly. Not to treat them as children. And not as charitable concerns.
The promotion of the hate crime and that everybody on benefits is a scrounger, a layabout and not interested in doing anything. I think what they're failing to recognise is, at the end of the day, any one of them can actually be disabled when they wake up the next day. They can be in a car accident, they can be struck down by some sort of genetic condition, anything. So, you know, many people that are disabled don't choose to be disabled. They don't choose to be unemployed in any shape or form. You know, they want to have a valuable life. They like to enjoy their life and have the same facilities as everybody else. But it's the society that exists at the moment that's actually preventing that. You know, within this county alone, you know, wheelchair users, visually impaired, they don't have the same access to facilities within this county as what you would probably do, say, in, say, Cardiff or somewhere like that. You know, it's just not happening. You know, and we are at a disadvantage at the end of the day, and it's so much hard work to try and get change. And a lot of the change is being done by disability organisations and volunteers. And the austerity measures, you know, on the local authorities. This local authority's already made, 6.7 million cuts this year. They've got to find another 14 million over the next 2 years. You know, that's going to hit services. It's not going to hit the council wages bill. It's going to hit the services. And with the advent of the Framework for Action on Independent Living, how can we work with councils and get that implemented when the councils are having to make service cuts left, right and centre? How can we improve the lives of disabled people and vulnerable people when the UK government is undermining everything that's positive and going on? Obviously, we are going back to the days where disability is going to be a hidden thing, where people are going to be locked behind their doors and, you know, hidden away from society so that they don't exist anymore. And it's just, I don't know, it's just not right at the moment.
I am not disabled. It is you. You disable me. You put me in boxes. You tell me I can't. You don't think it through. You try to understand. But mostly it's lip service. Give me a chance. Let me show you I can. Open your eyes. See me for the first time. I'm not who you thought I was. The Paralympics brought acceptance, respect, social inclusion, world's glory for Britain being the disabled champion, physical and attitudinal barriers gone, social model in action. The whole world applauded the nation. I am no different, I use the very same tools. I don't have a medal, but I fight the same rules. Keep mobile, independent, mingle, attempt to stay cool. Upgrading my apparatus when life becomes cruel. Adapting my pace so it's not hurtful and I don't topple. Well-being retained by carers, dedicated and cheerful. Despite daily limitations, tomorrow looked stable. Welfare reform is disturbing, menacing and causing confusion. It has shifted the nation's perception to one of suspicion. Financial exclusion will certainly create social exclusion. Emotions of panic, survival, failure, worthless and dread. Whirring, churning, frenzied thoughts go around in my head. Negative, degrading, humiliating assessments lie ahead. No legal aid to decode the perplexing criteria which I have read. Appeal, collect evidence, proof and attend a tribunal. I feel dirty, a deceiver with a disability that's fictional. To strangers describe embarrassing failing body function. The pain that engulfs me makes me feeble and socially unacceptable. Reflecting reality, devastating feelings are resuscitated. My destiny, if unsuccessful, alone, stagnant, unaided and rejected. Lacking in ability to do things that you take for granted. O God, please give to me the vocabulary to make you see. Each drop you deny kills a part of me. Stop a moment, this is not self-pity, hear my fearful plea. My hurdle is to finish each day with a dignity in place. I need the costly wheeled apparatus to finish the chase. Now the world that applauded is distracted. You sneak in through the back door and steal the limbs of motion. Costly care to assist getting off my starting block, my bed. End this financial drain, you said. Draining existence, I say instead. Commercially worthless, I lie here a recluse in physical mental decline. The decision is yours, not mine.
The usual concept of reform is improvement, is change for the better. But for the last 5 years, 4 years, this welfare reform process has been anything but beneficial to the people that it's affected.
So at the moment it's all confused. People seem to be scroungers. There's the emphasis is on reducing how many disabled people actually need benefits, but there's too many changes happening at the same time, and it's not being made clear to a lot of the people that need and also rely on the benefits there.
My daughter was given a lifetime award of DLA, which we sort of thought, well, it's not really enough money by any means. It buys, I think, half a day's 24-hour support out of a week, so it's really not a huge amount of money. But we sort of thought, as parents, that, well, at least we can rely on that going into the future, because she's given a lifetime award. But no, that was just thrown out the window, and everybody is now having to be interviewed again and prove that they need the support, prove that they're a disabled person. The suicide rate amongst disabled people following welfare reform effects is just staggering.
Disabled people's organisations in Wales are having training on the prevention of suicide to support their members following welfare changes.
I was told the ILS was cutting, stopping, and I don't think it is right to stop it for anybody.
The loss of the Independent Living Fund has the potential to destroy the carefully constructed lifestyles of many disabled people who will no longer be able to get to work, so they're not contributing to the economy, or even leave their house in some cases. Because in England, the DWP is transferring the ILF money to local authorities, and I think that's only for a year, 18 months. After that, there'll be no funding transferred, so people will be left at the mercy of local authority critical levels of eligibility, which in many cases will provide only the most basic levels of what is laughingly called care.
You can look after your own budget like I do, but they don't tell you readily. You've got to look for it and physically ask for it. They would rather keep it under county council supervision, where they send carers round to get you out of bed, to shower you, and that's all on a stopwatch. Lots of disabled people I know are rushed through getting dressed because the nurses rush in and do you. You haven't got any say what time you get up in the morning, what time to go to bed at night. You're just vulnerable to all of this. When you control your own budget, like I do, I employ my own personal assistants, and they come in when I want them to. I choose who I want to wipe my bottom. I don't have to have a stranger to do it. I can have people I trust to do personal things. I can say what time I get up in the morning, what time I go to bed. They are not going to rush. I've got a budget and hours, so they haven't got to rush off to do somebody else and process them like chickens in a factory farm.
I was watching the news last night and they're saying that in the last 12 months, 1 million people have had their benefits suspended. Now, I've seen that happen on my estate, and that's because they've missed the bus. Well, the bus is out here. You know, you're lucky if they're every hour. You know, and it's talking £6 to get back from where we live to here, to Aberystwyth. You know, and many people are not getting them travelling expenses covered. You know, out of their £40, £50 or whatever they're getting, they're having to make sure that they save that £6 for a fortnight's time to come back up here. And they come up, and you know, if late for their appointments or anything else like that, bang, benefit suspension. And then I was very surprised the other day to find out there's people on my little tiny estate that are having to come up here to the council and social services to get food parcels to keep them going for 2 weeks. And it's just like, well, this is ridiculous. It really is ridiculous. It just seems to be, they're really out of touch. And as for the media campaigns, shirkers and skivers, everybody sat at home behind the curtains playing the Xbox, watching people go off to work. What a load of rubbish. I mean, see, how many people are out in this, you know, unemployed, are out doing voluntary work, you know, and doing work for their communities and other bits and bobs like that. They're out of touch. They're just so out of touch, and especially in rural areas like this. Obviously, rural areas like this, work for disability, communities and stuff, it's mainly dependent on voluntary workers. You know, many of them voluntary workers are in receipt of benefits in one form or another. I have professionals come into my house that work within a community, and they come in and go, I don't understand, there's people around here, these people on the dole, you know, they've got all this, they've got all of that, you know, and they can't afford to pay this and they can't pay that. They fail to recognise that many people, when they go into their homes, if they have a flat screen TV and they're on benefits, the way they've obtained that is going through people like Provident or Wonga or hire purchase through catalogues. And by the time they finish paying for those items no longer work. But they need to be purchasing these things so that their children ain't alienated from the rest of society that do have. And it's just frustrating. I do a lot of community work with my community, you know, trying to turn it around, and you know, and like I said, it covers all social backgrounds, and it's hard work, you know, and this government's not helping in any type, shape or form.
Well, we think some of the government's changes to the welfare system are being enormously destructive. The abolition of the Independent Living Fund is clearly just quite wrong. Reducing the mobility component from 50 yards to 20 makes no sense whatsoever. It's going to penalise people who have very profound mobility impairments. The tighter criteria for PIP will damage people. And then, of course, we've got the work capacity test. This is one of the greatest misnomers ever. To believe that every disabled person can work who's a working age is nonsense. It is a travesty. And all this rhetoric we've had about scroungers and disabled people lying in bed at 7 in the morning while their hard-working neighbours are going out to work and toiling away and heaven knows what else. These are people who are often waiting for the home help or someone to turn up and get them dressed. That's why they're lying in bed. They can't get out of their bed. And they've been reviled. The public have been told we're either superheroes in the Olympics or we are scumbags leeching off the economy. Neither is true. And when you present people that way, it's easier to cut their benefits because the public buy the rhetoric, and that would lead to a rise in hate crime. And government is responsible for doing in this country exactly what people in other countries have done before wars. You take a group of people, you revile them, you take away support for them, and then you attack them. Now we've got to turn that round. And we've got to say to people, if you can't work, then this country is a rich country. We are wealthy. And I know we're wealthy because the Prime Minister tells us so. Whenever he goes on television, what a wonderful job he's doing with the economy. This country can afford easily to support those who are unable to work and to give them a decent quality of life. And that's what we must do.